Thank you. Thank you, Gustavo. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everyone. I don't see many faces here, but that's nice to hear that lots of people from different parts of the world are together with us here this morning and evening for many of you, afternoons. So to start with something a little different, we thought about a question we'd like to ask you, and it would be nice to hear a few voices when we ask you, for example, a simple question. How do you think we should treat others? And by others, I mean anything, not only people, but things, the environment, animals, and of course, talking corporately, talking in terms of organizations. How do you think we should treat them? Can anyone answer that? Anyone try to bring a simple answer, please?
I think with respect, first of all, with respect.
Thank you, Natalia. Perfect. Anyone else?
Completely agree with what Natalia said. It is the respect that plays the absolutely major role. And I think if people just showed it to one another more, if we respected each other more, then there would be much fewer conflicts, and overall we'd have better communications.
Perfect.
I feel that we should have compassion for others. We should be compassionate toward others.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Nija. Nirja or Nija? Nirja.
Nirja.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we have
with compassion,
respect, compassion. Anything else, guys? You can also write on the chat if you prefer. It's a simple question, but it also refers to something so important when we talk about business. Someone also put here to try to understand others' perspective. So maybe that's simplified by empathy or something like that, right, Michael? Aditya, thanks. So why do I ask this question? Because we're here to talk about conscious capitalism. And the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about conscious capitalism is that we're talking about consciousness somehow. And you were all mentioning different aspects of life, of important characteristics we should be aware when we treat others in any way. So why do we think so differently when it is in organizations or companies or businesses? Why do we change this important and simple basic rule when we work, for example, in certain types of industries or so? So maybe here I'm going to share with you the presentation we prepared for you. And this is, can you tell me if you're seeing it already?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So this is the question we're talking about. The way we treat others should be something so basic for us in companies that we would never, if we did this before in the past, we would never have seen so many of the destruction of the planet and our own mental health in the last centuries. And that was proven by a research that Professor Raj Sisodia from the Babson University in the United States, he started to notice that when a few years ago, when there was the financial crisis, especially in the United States, that was in 2008, 2007, 2008, they started to recognize that a lot of businesses, small or big businesses, were having better results despite of the crisis. And he started to check that this business had something in common. On the other hand, there were other huge corporations spending billions of dollars in marketing, and the results of these companies were not necessarily much better. So what had he discovered? That those companies that started using consciousness in their businesses started to show better results, started to feel, to prove that having a good relationship with the whole system, ecosystem, all the stakeholders involved in their market, these companies had much more resilience and better results. So this is a little bit about Raj Sisodia, but we also have at the same time a story of another business that maybe many of you know, that it's called Whole Food Markets. It's an American market that's kind of famous in other countries too, because it was created by exactly this concept of bringing the best from and for all the stakeholders. So it was a simple supermarket in the beginning, and its story, it's very nice. If you ever have the chance to read about Whole Food Markets, you'll find it very interesting. And this story of Whole Foods was based on all the premises that compound now the conscious capitalism. So these two guys met because when Professor Raj was doing his studies at the university to prove these companies had better results and everything, John Mackey got to hear about it, and he said, hey, this is exactly what I do here. This is exactly the model we follow, and we can get together to reaffirm these foundations. Actually, John Mackey had already started at this point, institution called Flow. And that was already with the purpose of using these pillars that conscious capitalism uses, that became part of the institution afterwards created and nominated as Conscious Capitalism Incorporated. So just going next here, a little bit about the history here. Of course, I'm not going to read it all, but this is what I was talking about. So basically, conscious capitalism was a connection between the two different types of institutions, academy and business, and they got together to create this synergy in terms of a movement that started to show the world the importance of watching other parts when it comes to business, to doing business. Here in this timeline, you can see a little bit more of the history, including Brazil in this story now. So we were talking about 2007, 2008, when Raj Sisodia, the professor, started to do his research, and he published a book called Forms of Endearment. And then this book, he proved his researches, all his concepts, showing all the data and the stories of these several companies he watched and saw as references in terms of consciousness. Then in 2010, they had already met, Raj and John Mackey, and they started the Conscious Capitalism Incorporated, which is now a global movement. In 2012, both wrote a book that was published, and this book became a huge bestseller, not only in the United States. I wonder, and I'd like to hear if any of you have ever heard of this book called Conscious Capitalism. Do you remember to have seen it already?
Yeah, yes, Simone, we have seen.
Okay, so a year after that, we had a group of businessmen here in Brazil, CEOs and important members of the business, the huge corporations here in Brazil that were not very happy about the way business were led, and they went to the United States. They met Raj, they met Omeki, and they brought the conscious capitalism movement to Brazil by creating the institute we have here. After that, and even before, I haven't mentioned, but there was the first chapter created in Australia in 2012. Then in Brazil in 2013, and from 2014 on, many other countries started this movement, having created local institutes too. And here in Brazil, since the beginning, the institute has worked mostly on creating the educational and inspirational movements to provide engagement of businessmen and all the society to see that capitalism is not necessarily something to destroy or deploy the earth. Capitalism should be seen as something that can provide a lot of wealth to humanity, has created a lot of wealth, and it can still work pretty well for the future. There was also a research created here in Brazil, similar to the one Professor Raj created in the United States. Here in Brazil, there was another research called Humanizadas. That was a similar research in terms of bringing the best practices and showing that in terms of data, that these companies here can also have the best results by using the 4 tenets that are relevant here for the conscious capitalism. So this is just a short and a first preview on the history of this movement. And it's something that brings us to another thing that maybe many of you have heard before this story. This term, conscious capitalism, was actually first mentioned by Mohamed Yunus, the creator of the Grameen Bank. You've probably heard of that. Have you ever heard of this bank?
No, me no.
That's a social bank, maybe the first so-called social bank created in India or in Bangladesh. And he was a Nobel Peace Prize at that time because he really thought about offering the possibilities to offer microloans to poor village entrepreneurs in Bangladesh. So that was a whole disruption, a huge disruption for these people at that time. And that was in 1995, so a long time ago, when for the first time, he cited his bank as an example of a new capitalism form. He already used this term, socially conscious capitalism. And a few years later, almost more than 15 years later, Patricia Abordeni also published Megatrends 2010, The Rise of Conscious Capitalism, which was another first idea bringing up this content to the world. So the term conscious capitalism actually hasn't started by the founders of the institute, but the concept and the practices, the premises of using certain tenets as basis, that was instituted by Conscious Capitalism Incorporated. Any doubts, any questions you would like to do before we move on? Any comments? Feel free to interrupt. I just don't see you all. I don't see if there is anybody raising hands, so just let me know, okay?
I don't, just one comment if I can make, one of the best talks I have heard on TED Talks, on this matter. It is by an organization called Kiva, and she refers to the model of the Grameen Bank, and she says that the one thing that she realized when she was on ground and speaking to people, that people did not want money, they just wanted a loan. And that is what changed her consciousness regarding people, and that they wanted respect, but they just wanted a loan, not donations. They wanted to work hard, and she felt that if she would arrange for a loan, it would respect them.
Good, thank you, Aditya. That's the point. It's beautiful to see that, and that's what these movements are moved by. They want to create wealth and prosperity, not necessarily money. That's the point that we're going to see later in one of the articles I'm going to share with you, because that's what they understand. It's more relevant to create dignity and the conditions to people to create their own value. So this is awesome. Thanks for your contribution. So here on this slide, you see basically what we've mentioned before. Conscious Capitalism is a US-based non-profit organization, as it is in Brazil. This is our non-profit organizations whose purpose is to build this movement of business leaders, improving the practice and perfection of capitalism to elevate humanity. Exactly the same as Aditya said, the main purpose is to elevate humanity to billions of people so that it can flourish, leading lives infused with passion, purpose, love, and creativity. So someone mentioned the word compassion before. We don't see the word respect here, but it is all maybe respect is the best word to summarize the whole idea here, right? Now the movement has about 24 chapters only in the United States, and are present, other chapters are now present in several countries like Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Portugal, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, and others. The social change theory behind this purpose is that change begins with individuals. That's why my question in the beginning was for you, because it all starts with us, with any person, because we are all, if not business people, we are consumers, we are relatives of people who work for this company, so we are all stakeholders somehow. And the conscious capitalism even includes the environment as part of the whole stakeholder system, because we have the environment can't talk by itself, but we know how important it is for our own survival. So it's important that we understand that and we take it and consider it as an important part. So here, there's just a slide to show you other situations that were more recent that also started to move the world into a new direction, new possibility. You've heard of the Business Roundtable that happened a few years ago. Larry Fink's letters. Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock, the biggest investors in the world. So we have these people who are dealing with a big part of the money of the world now talking about the importance of watching all these things happening, not only the profits, not only the shareholders' interests, but also stakeholders' interests. So we started to hear about stakeholder capitalism, which is kind of similar in a way. New generations are also coming with a new mindset. It's kind of natural for these millennials, the Z and Y generations come with a lot of questions, not accepting things so easily anymore, not accepting that business only look for profits at the end of the day. So that is also causing a big change. And not only the new generations, older generations are also getting more aware about the consumption, their waste and the way things are produced, how they are produced. So it's important to see that social and environmental demands have been highlighted these days a lot more with the pandemics. In the last 2 days, we've noticed a big boom of information talking about the global climate emergency. We're not talking about the changes that we used to see and hear from far. And now we see that in our lives. We see the weather is different. We see a lot of natural disasters coming close to us. So a lot of people are starting to be more attentive to this. And there were lots of other movements provided by UN and especially the Global Pact and the SDGs that are starting to measure all the results we have for the model capitalism has been run since the beginning. So we know capitalism has created global prosperity. That is for sure. We all know that. But at what cost? All the consequences we see now, the huge inequities that we see in the world, in many of our countries, is a proof that capitalism hasn't done the best that it could. But that doesn't mean capitalism is the worst model of all. It's quite the opposite. So we have created the best conditions for most part of the humanity after capitalism has been incorporated. So move to the next. It's just time for a reset. It's time to change a traditional view we have where the planet, society, and business are not connected to an interconnection that is important. Planet, business, and society are totally interdependent, so we can't see things differently anymore. That's totally necessary. And that is the conscious capitalism credo. So we believe that business is basically good because it creates value. It's ethical because it's based on voluntary exchange. It's noble because it can elevate our existence. And it is heroic because it lifts people out of poverty and creates prosperity. So free enterprise capitalism is the most powerful system for social cooperation and human progress ever conceived. It's one of the most compelling ideas we humans have ever had, and we can aspire to even more. That's what conscious capitalism proposes. So this is a simple part of that. And we're going to show you here something about, it's a short video of the first summit we had in Brazil a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when Professor Raj, John Mackey, and other members of Conscious Capitalism Incorporated came to Brazil just to show you a little more, okay?
There's no sound.
There's no audio.
You can hear it?
No.
Será que eu tenho que, Gustavo, será que eu tenho que pôr uma configuração?
Acho que você tem que, quando você for compartilhar a tela, compartilhar áudio do computador. Não sei se você selecionou essa opção.
Deixa eu ver onde que eu...
Você pode parar de compartilhar, daí tentar de novo e daí selecionar a opção do áudio.
Ele aparece quando... Ah, tá. Uhum. Vou voltar aqui um pouquinho.
Business is only about making money, and to do that we use employees, we use customers, we use natural resources.
At the end of 10 years in corporate communications, my spirit was hungry, my soul felt empty, and I started questioning myself, isn't there more to life?
I really had a frustration with the story of business, that business is only about making money, and to do that we use employees, we use customers, we use natural resources.
When I went to college, I wanted to make a difference in the world and didn't think business was the way to do it at the time, admittedly.
For me, this is a very, very meaningful way of elevating the promise of capitalism with greater consciousness.
Government cannot solve these problems. Non-profits, religious organizations cannot solve these problems. Only business can solve the biggest problems in the world.
Somos pequeno grupo de pessoas inconformadas que simplesmente não aceitam o inaceitável.
Em 2013, quando eu li o livro, né, a sensação era, cara, encontrei a minha Bíblia, né? Assim, tudo que eu não sou um alien nesse mundo.
Here is a tribe of people who are all believing the same thing, and we can tell a new story for capitalism and how it can indeed be a force for good.
People are more conscious of the decisions they make and how they live their lives. The same is true for the companies, and that is like a tide, an ocean tide that lifts all boats.
Quando a gente olha o topo da S&P 500, das 500 empresas mais valiosas do mundo, o topo é todo composto por empresas de tecnologia que nasceram de um propósito. Todas as empresas que têm uma missão maior do que simplesmente o lucro.
A gente entendeu que o lucro não é o suficiente para que uma empresa se perenize e continue gerando valor para a sociedade ao longo do tempo.
Uma empresa que não preocupa com o seu capital humano, que não preocupa com a consciência do seu papel, está se provando através de estatística que ela não dura.
Quando eles também se preocupam na preservação da sociedade, na preservação do meio ambiente, certamente a sociedade vai ser mais pujante, vai ter mais renda, as pessoas vão ser mais felizes e, por consequência, a gente vai ter um mundo muito melhor.
So we say that profits are important. It is socially irresponsible not to make profit, but you have to make profit in the right way. It is putting people at the center and saying we will make profit only by improving human flourishing. And that's the important element here.
Acho que não tem mundo ideal, tem um mundo possível, um mundo melhor, um mundo mais justo.
E todo mundo junto, empresários, trabalhadores, poder público, poder privado, todo mundo junto.
Everyone who is a stakeholder in your organization must win and must feel included in your success.
This is the paradigm by which people practice and perceive all of business, and that it unleashes the potential of humanity to work together to help one another out and create a more thriving world.
So we think this is the answer to peace and prosperity on the planet, to have business operate in a healthy, loving, cooperative, value-creating way.
So we exist to help transform the way investments and businesses are done with a focus on reducing inequalities in Brazil. That's why we are here now. Brazil is a good place to be and to use this type of logic, because we have a lot, and with the pandemics we turn into a little worse. We became a little worse than before. So to continue, before we continue, I'd also like to ask you to take a look at these 4 tenets that are the principles of, or the basics of the conscious capitalism that we try to implement in the companies when we have the approach. So the 4 tenets of the conscious business include higher purpose or high purpose, stakeholder orientation, conscious leadership, and conscious culture. These are incredibly important aspects of a business that can change the whole results. The first thing we'd like to talk here is about the purpose. When you read this, I'd like to hear any voices, some voices here. Before reading that, if you can just imagine, how do you see, or if you can see any example in your country or around you or where you work that you could bring to us about a company that really has a purpose, knows its why, knows why it exists. Can you think of any company like that? Can you bring any example, you know? Or can you just talk about the way you imagine this company would work in this way?
Well, in Russia, we have so-called Rusfond. It's not exactly a business, rather a non-commercial organization that collects funds for the children with who are either heavily ill, who are sick with disabilities, and it has existed for more than 20 years. So has a valid reputation, and it has this goal of helping children. And you may not know the details, but when you see here in Russia the name Rusfond, you immediately know what they are doing.
Nice. Perfect. Good example.
I would say, yeah, I would like to consider Tata's as a company which has been having a culture for the last 100 years, the culture of philanthropy. And I think Jamsetji Tata has been considered as the biggest philanthropist for the last decade in India. And I think he has really contributed not only in India, but also across the globe. So Tata is one such company which has sustained its culture of philanthropy till date. And it really has businesses which deals with pure philanthropy and pure kind of sustainable models in all the companies of Tata's in India and abroad. So Tata is one such country which works with purpose.
Perfect. Yeah, Tata is famous for that. I've heard of it. Anyone else? Yeah. Even here in Brazil, maybe Mauro, Gustavo can help with any example, or in other countries we have represented here. Do you remember any?
Well, Klabin maybe, because they are making also part of the program of putting people to have training sessions for free also.
Yeah, Klabin is a packaging and paper producer, huge producer here in Brazil, and it uses lots of high patterns on its production. It's huge. It's beautiful what they do. And they don't only look at this point, having the purpose of using the best, in the best way, the resources, because they need to use natural resources to make paper and packaging. But they know they create a whole program, the whole ecosystem to establish the best model. Any other example? Maybe the same examples you brought, in the same examples, you can see this second tenet applied. Probably the companies or the institutions that have higher purposes, they have a stakeholder orientation by heart. It's nothing that comes necessarily when the companies have this type of approach. They tend to look at their stakeholders as a natural thing, just the same as I asked you in the beginning. The question: what's important for you? What do you? What would you do if you had to imagine the best way to treat others? That comes to this point. If you consider natural resources, if you have, for example, a company like the example Monroe brought, Klabin, that takes trees out of the nature, but it also plants them back. creates trees to produce their paper and implement the best way of keeping it sustainable for its own survivance. So it's kind of, it's a way to see how stakeholders involve nature, involves the communities around them, it involves the employees, because they also need to be part of the whole understanding of the system. They're investors, especially when they're huge companies. It's important to involve the investors and show them that the money applied on the business might have a long-term result, but much higher, much better, and it's proven. That is already proven by a lot of researchers, as we said before. Here, for example, there's the case of Whole Foods Market, how it uses the stakeholder orientation to integrate its core values, its mission, to all the possible stakeholders they have. So they watch the happiness of their team members. They provide, they create investors, motivation for their investors. They create community and environmental responsiveness. And they have satisfied and delight customers, partnerships with vendors and suppliers. So everything is involved in their stakeholder observation. And conscious leadership. Of course, nothing that we're talking about is possible if we don't have conscious leaders. So that part is maybe the easiest to understand, but it's not so easy to find. What do you think? Do you see conscious leaders around you? In your companies, where you work, or around you, do you see a lot of this in the world? How do you see this? Do you think this is growing, or?
No, it definitely has to. I mean, it is the leaders that give an example. They are the role model for their subordinates to follow. And if they are not conscious, then it's a lost cause.
It's impossible, right? To continue and to get to this reality without conscious leaders. And we also have, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'll comment. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just mentioning, I have experienced, one such leader in my organization, and, it was the one sentence that he said, and I would like to share. So, I was about to take charge of, our manufacturing unit, and he was giving me the charge, and, I said, I'm too young to see this, and how do you take a decision is what I asked him. And he said, just be conscious of one thing. Whichever the smallest ever decision you take is going to impact 100 families of the people who are working in the factory. So if you just remember that, you will always take the right decision.
Excellent. Incredible. That's a perfect example. We see how one person, in each employee can have an impact. If you cause the impact in one person that works for you, you're going to create a whole wave after it. So it's perfect. It's a very nice example. Thanks. And the conscious culture is created by all this whole system working properly. So if we have conscious leadership, we tend to have a conscious culture, but it also needs to be applied by the other people. It's not only the leadership that's going to make it happen. Although it's absolutely important, we need to have this in the company's DNA. It's important that everybody understand its importance, the importance of this culture. So the purpose, the people, the process, everything is involved to connect the reason the company exists to the whole ecosystem. So this is a short abstract here about how traditional capitalism and conscious capitalism can be different. So basically, conscious capitalism is a purpose-focused or purpose-driven type, different than the traditional model that's totally focused on profits. On traditional capitalism, the shareholders are the ones who win, while conscious capitalism look after all stakeholders. It's a win-win-win model, not a zero sum. As I said before, the results might come later. They might take more time to appear, but they are still better than the ones provided by the traditional capitalism. It's holistic, not self-centered. It looks for harmony of interests. It's mutualistic, not parasitic, not exploitative. It creates value and synergies, not trade-offs. So it's supposed to be trusted. It's supposed to be seen as something that really, really can change to the humanity for its best possibility. So many of these things we're talking about is shown on the literature that has been created on the whole subjects discussed by the conscious capitalism, especially because Professor Raj Sisodia is a good writer, so he puts all these things on books, writing with co-authors, co-writers most of times, and using and showing different forms of putting all these things into practice by writing. So here you have a few examples of books that were launched by conscious capitalism. The Healing Organization, for example, is one of the last, and it's a very nice, a very good example of, it brings lots of cases of awakenings, how people can awake, how did this happen to many organizations. So it's real. All these books are nice because they prove how these things can be real, how they can really, really happen. So the best, not the best, it's kind of hard to say the best, which one is the best, but if you have to start, I would strongly recommend to start by the yellow one that is considered the Bible of conscious capitalism, because it shows the history, it shows the 4 tenets, and I'm going to provide you a short introduction of this book afterwards, so you can read the introduction and see if you are interested in reading more. Mauro, can you keep on, please?
Yeah, sure. And hi, folks. My part is just to tell you what we are doing here in Brazil in this sense. And it's important to mention that, well, this first book, Conscious Capitalism, it should be the first goal, like the 0 UN goal of sustainable development. And we are talking every time with all people that are doing here, like Simone started here in the Curitiba chapter, and Gustavo Leola is here with us, also is a member of our chapter. I am one of the newest one, but I have all these principles in my mind since I started to work with not tax advisory, and as an ex-Arthur Andersen guy, and really focused on bringing some security for all investors. And afterwards, as a lawyer specialized in tax law, all the time I was trying to develop some advantages, but all the time trying to reducing taxes and, of course, saving profits, not taking the overall picture for the entire community. And now our DNA is education and inspiration. Well, my turning point started a few years ago, and now with the consciousness capitalism, we can spread out all with our examples. And now it's important to talk about leadership also. But yesterday I was with Daniela talking about this, and this inspiration, what we are doing now with you guys from all over the world, with ISAE supporting us, is the way we can spread all this process of developing and deploying effective solutions to challenge it, and often offering systemic social and environmental issues in support of social progress. That's what is the concept of social innovation that we are talking about here. And Simone, you can go further. And we are not talking about inspiration and education, but also making it happen. Like here in Curitiba, not only in Curitiba, but all the branches that we will see later on. We have the possibility to spread with more than 10 different types of conscious capitalism content. We can publish more books, not publish here in Brazil, but translating to Portuguese. And also we started the Academy of Conscious Capitalism here. Simone, you can go further. And talking about certification, well, I made last month my certification, so I am now ambassador of conscious capitalism. But the point is, all this knowledge that we have from the books, but also studying and talking about this new approach for a stakeholder, not the shareholder, trying to get all the profit for himself only, but for the entire society, is the way we can put this in a practical way. And we have this also ESG journey. We have many different kinds of certification and training sessions. Okay, Simone. And well, we have here also the leaders of the future. And well, Klabin is here, Gerdau and Movida. All these companies are focused on this platform for youngers, and they are paying 5 times for more. They are offering 5 opportunities for people, for students in a vulnerable situation, for each opportunity that another one that can pay for it gets. So they are paying for this. Our chapters here in Brazil, well, Curitiba is the newest, but we have many big cities, not only the capitals of these states, like Minas Gerais, São Paulo, but also in São Paulo, many different cities. We hope that you can also spread it out in your countries. Go on, Simone. And as I told you, I am kind of an ambassador. Wow, this is the certification as a membership of the consciousness capitalism. And I strongly recommend you to start supporting, also to participating in this movement, as Simone said. And maybe we can be huge in a good sense, companies that we can also support. We can also become on this red flag paying, like Klabin is paying. Well, you can be a patrono in Portuguese. In English would be the part, I would say, patroness. But well, I will turn back to Simone, then she can tell you also the companies that in United States and in Brazil are making difference. Okay, thank you.
This is just a list as a part of the associates of conscious capitalism in the United States and in Brazil. Of course, there's a few of them. You might know some of these names like Hyatt Hotels, Costco, Whole Foods, as we said, Best Buy, and some other companies. Here in Brazil, we have a few but important companies too, and it's a movement that is considered in the beginning. It's beginning here. So we're growing. In the last 2 years, the movement started this expansion in its plans and its strategical plan. So we're hoping here to grow a lot more. And with the research that was also invested here, and it's going to its 3rd edition, we imagine a lot more companies are going to start feeling like participating in observing these 4 tenets and putting these things into practice. So it's a lot. We know it's a lot of information. We have, as I said in the beginning, 3 articles that we strongly recommend you to read. One is the introduction of the yellow book we showed you. We sent Gustavo the documents so he can send it back to you, send it to you by email or whatever, in the way he finds it best. And we're going to put here a link for another example of how a company changed its model, applying these 4 tenets. So it's a 4-page or something like that, 4 to 6 page of an article that can show you how it's possible, show real cases. And it's very good to have you hearing us. So it's, again, a great opportunity to talk about it. So we thank Gustavo again for bringing us here and having you hearing us. Hope you have enjoyed. And if there's any comment or question, we still have like 2 minutes to go, Gustavo.
Yes, that's correct. So everyone, any questions? I think Michael.
Hi, Simone. Very interesting meeting, really. I have a question. In Brazil, for example, do you see at least that the biggest, I don't know, top 100 companies in Brazil following conscious capitalism as well? For example, I don't know, mining companies such as, I believe it's pronounced Vale? Or yeah, do you think there's...
No, unfortunately, we can't consider that is already happening the way we would like to. What's happening here now, it's that, and there was a final slide I haven't showed you, but I can send you the presentation later on, where it shows the difference between social responsibility, corporative social responsibility that is more used here, that was more, let's say, considered here than the conscious capitalism tenets. And what's the biggest difference? Why this is relevant here? Because the corporate social responsibility is something that is put into the company model as something that is kind of forced, sometimes to compensate something that is not properly done. So that's also something that for many people it's considered a sort of greenwashing, because it's very easy to do something good to hide something much worse they do. And we unfortunately still have things happening like this everywhere in the world. In Brazil is not different. But the big difference now, I believe there's a huge trend to change that because of the society charges. We are taking the responsibility. The leaders know there's responsibility, and justice is watching this in many ways. So I hope I can tell you soon that this is something that's going to be part of our core in all businesses, especially the huge ones, the big ones, the big corporations that create so many problems in many ways.
Yeah. It's a huge trend, and not only greenwashing, pinkwashing and whatever. The society is becoming more conscious.
Yeah, it's a transition, and that takes time as everything happens, as everything that happened in for the humanity. If we think, even the capitalist model has taken years to become what it is. So it will take some years for this whole transition but we have to keep hoping and doing whatever we can to spread the idea and to show our support and to show that we believe we have proofs of that. And if some can make it, it's possible.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, so I would like again to thank you, Monroy and Simone. It was really great presentation, and as I said, really inspiring. It's interesting to see different perspectives about business and dream about it, right? So as you just said, we already have big companies on the conscious capitalism group of companies that is discussing and thinking about this, and maybe they could inspire different companies, and we see the movement growing, especially now in Brazil. So every day, every year, more companies join. So it's a movement, so it goes like a wave. So it's important to share with everyone and start to disseminate this to create and think about solutions and dream about this different future for everyone. So thank you for the presentation again. And of course, if you could share the slides so we can send to the students together with the articles that you presented and comment. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys.
Perfect.
Have a good day. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Well, guys, so really interesting presentation. I think it brings up a really new perspective on the discussion to understand this. Also, I don't like the word, but it's like a trend that we're seeing now. Talk about conscious capitalism, about stakeholders capitalism, about these different ways to do business, understanding the needs of the society and the main stakeholders, not just shareholders, but also everyone related and connected with the company. We discussed this a little bit in the days before. But now, for keep the discussion going, I would like to invite Paulo Cruz Filho, who's from B Lab, to talk about B Corps and this concept of B Corps and dissemination, etc. So, Paulo, welcome to our program, and well, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Gustavo. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, right now it's good. So thank you so much, Gustavo. Monroe, thank you for your explanation. It's a long time that we don't see.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy to be here, especially to talk about what we were discussing previously, conscious capitalism, and the role of the B Corp movement on that. Just before we start, I'd like to know from you guys, and it will be, I don't know, very nice if many of you could open your cameras. I have 2 screens here so I can see everyone, and then we can exchange, because the idea here, thank you, Eduardo. The idea is actually that we exchange about this. I don't want to like just do a presentation, but that we explore this topic together. So thank you very much for all of you open up your cameras. And I would like to know from you, do you know about the B Corps and the B Corporation movement, the B Lab? Do you know anything about that already? If you can like just raise your hand or say something in the chat, just for me to know a little bit of, if you know, just raise your hand using the tool here at Zoom or just doing the camera. I think Natalia said she heard about it, right, Natalia? Amazing. Anyone else knows about B Corps? No? Okay.
Well, okay. I think I do. Just have to refresh my memories. If I remember correctly, it's
Andre. I don't know if can you repeat, please? I was not listening to you.
I'm just saying that I must have. I'm not sure if I remember it correctly. Must to refresh my memories, and I'm sure you'll tell us in a few minutes. But I think it's the whole point of B Corp is the certification of other organizations judging their. So the level of their social responsibility.
Amazing. Yeah, certification is one point of it. Exactly. Natalia, what do you know about it? Can you tell us?
Well, actually, it's certification, as Andrei has already mentioned, and it's quite a complicated story, I should say, because there are a lot of parameters that are checked within the company, starting with the staff relations, with the I don't know, human resources, with customers, suppliers. So there are a lot of issues that are being supervised, monitored, or something. So it's quite a complicated thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of on this on the movement. Yeah, I'll explain to you, and it will be a yeah, Sebastian. Yeah, big companies, exactly. I will talk about it also because it's part of the big corporation movement.
Yeah, big is a business collective interest in Colombia. More or less 1 year ago, it started with the press and government. So it's a new model of similar of big corporation in our country.
Exactly. So you can start a business already being a business oriented to social impact.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And these legislations that started, some of them started before the B Corp movement, but they were very much intensified by the B Corp movement. And it is one of the pillars of the movement. So I will explain everything to you. And please, while I am presenting the images and talking to you and presenting, please open your microphone, please make questions so we can really have a dialogue here, okay?
Thank you, Paulo.
Amazing. So I will share some slides with you because I love to use images. I think they help us to grab the information. But as I said, I'm seeing you here on my screen on the top. So we are connected. Well, so my name is Paulo Cruz Filho. I am a Brazilian-Canadian person, and I work at B-Lab as the program manager for the B Movement Builders program, and I will explain what it is in a while. Okay. So let me, great. So I'd like to start first seeing this picture, and I will just describe for you what is this picture. Okay, this is a picture of Hong Kong, and what you see is on the panel is the same image that you see on the back of the panel. So it's the same image. It's a picture, and you see some tourists or Hong Kong citizens taking pictures of the panel, while you see the same image on the back. But you see that it's a little foggy at the back, and unfortunately, it's not fog. It's pollution that is coming from China. This pollution also goes to Seoul in South Korea, and I'm not talking about China specifically because this is a problem of a lot of countries. But we can see that the solution that the Hong Kong mayor decided to do here was to insert put a panel with like a sunny image so people can go out of Hong Kong with a better picture. So I would like to invite you to feel what you're feeling right now. Do you agree with the solution? Because, well, we have to think about tourism. Does it feel like weird to you? Why are we having this kind of solution? And maybe are we trying to do something to change the pollution that is coming from companies on China? So just to connect with how complex and difficult it is to solve the planetary problems that we have today. They involve millions of people, they involve different countries, and it is impossible to do it alone. We have to do it collectively. That's why we have these emerging programs like the conscious capitalism, like B Corps, like many others, the US Compass, or the SDGs. We need those to guide our intentions and our actions, right? So as you know, B-Lab will be on part of these movements. So especially since last year with COVID, we saw an explosion of this awareness. Of course, it's not new. I'm on the field, it's been like 20 years, and many years before that, we already have social impact and the social businesses and everything. But we saw like an explosion of it. We saw like a huge growing on these topics. And we are talking about many concepts here. Social impact, social business, social responsibility, social enterprise, inclusive business, SDGs, ESG, which seems to be the new sustainability term, right? So before it was social responsibility, then we used sustainability, and now ESG takes this turn as like a all-encompassing concept, right? So on all this movements that we have, conscious capitalism, for example, and the big corporation movements that I put it here in highlight because that's what we are talking about today. So what is B Corps all about? It's a movement. It's a global movement that was not created. Like it emerged to use the power of business to create benefits for the planet and people that live on it, and the animals, of course. So it's using the force of market, the creativity of market, the innovation of markets to build an inclusive, equitative, and regenerative economic system. We need a change. I don't know, many of you already studied the donuts economy, you know, like let me draw it here, the donuts economy. And it's an amazing concept because if you are, for example, if we look at our use of water, and if our use is inside this donut, we are okay. But if you use too much, we are on excess. And if you use too little, we don't develop our societies. So we have to understand when we are transpassing the limits for each country, for each city, for each business. So this is a very interesting concept. And what we are seeing today is that we are going too strongly outside of this sustainable economy that we have. So this is what all these movements are all about. And we can, like I said, we can see this explosion. So you all are seeing the CEO of BlackRock providing and writing letters about their decisions on investing on ESG world companies, right? So for example, they just last year they decided that they will not invest anymore on coal companies. So if you have a coal company, BlackRock, which is the major investment fund in the world, will not invest on you anymore. So what am I going to do? I have to change my business, or I have to do something about it. And like this, many other movements started to grow, which is very connected to the change on our consciousness. So conscious capitalism is very important here because it's talking about we are changing the way that we see the world. We are changing our tradition of making business that started there in the great navigations after the Illuminism, and that we are using those ideas until today. And they did not help us to solve our problems anymore, right? So we are living a global and historical shift on the consciousness of business. And this is amazing. And of course, it's hard because you're going to see a lot of people and a lot of CEOs that are not looking at it, that will not look at it, and don't think it's important. And a lot of them that thinks that it is important. The decision is yours, but it's paramount that we change something because the inequalities that we have, because of everything that we have, and you know all about it. So why is this happening now? It's not like a new like a fashion, a new something that we should do because everyone is doing. Actually, it's a natural evolution of our human society. If we look at level of consciousness and how our ways of thinking evolved in history, after the Middle Age, we started to develop our capitalism way of thinking, and it was amazing because we had drugs to help us live better. We have all the technology, everything to live better, and all this 500 years that we develop our economy were amazing. Even if you think about the 18th century, you can see that, for example, when Adam Smith said, when a man, they used man at the time, not person, when a man do things based on his own interest, he benefits all society. Why? Because if I produce a bread that is good and well priced, people will buy from me. So actually the invisible hand of the market really worked at that time. But the problem is that we exceeded, thinking about the donut economy, we exceeded on that I can do anything and my own interest will help everyone. So right now, we in the last century, we started to develop a new way of thinking, which is, well, have to see the consequences of that. So this is why it's a natural evolution for us human beings to look at ESG and social impact on business. It's not like something that is new and it will pass. Okay. Well, so regarding everything that we said, what is the B Corp movement? Why is it there? Why it emerged in 2006 and it's so strong right now? Well, just to say why I'm here, like I said, I was born in Brazil, but I lived 7 years in Canada. And it was during my PhD in Canada that I knew about the B Corp movement. And I just fell in love because I went to Canada, especially to understand how social impact was being done in the North countries and to bring it back to Brazil one day, what I'm doing right now. But, and also understanding what Brazil has on its DNA that can help our social impact globally. When I came back to Brazil in 2015, I started to create some movements on the social impact field here. And the B Corp movement was always on my side because I chose it, because I really connected with the way of thinking of the B Corp movement. So I'm here as a passion. And since last year, I started working at the Sistema B Brasil, and also on the B Corp movement. I will explain to you these names and for you to understand everything. Okay, so that's a little bit of who I am. I have two passions in life besides my two kids there. I have a 4 and a 1-year-old, but I have two passions, which one is the expansion of human consciousness. How can we improve our ability to use everything that we have and to do better, and of course, social impact. So I try to merge these two things. And I founded WeFlow, which is a B Corp here in Brazil, which is based on the idea that we can help expanding people and organizations' mindset and consciousness so they can deliver more social impact to the world. So that's what we do, training, consulting, and everything. And I will talk, of course, about my other role in the world, which is at B Lab. So what is the B Lab and what is the B Corp movement? B Lab has one purpose, which is its vision is an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economy system to benefit people and the planet. So it was founded in 2006 by 3 entrepreneurs that had a company in the United States, which was a basketball clothing company, what's called And1. It still exists, but they sold this company before it becoming a B Corp and everything. So they had this company. It was a very conscious company thinking about social impact and everything, and they decided to sell it. And when they sold it, the group that bought it, they eliminated all the social impact actions, and the company became a cost and profit unit. So they said, well, during our journey, we had met so many CEOs that think like us, and business that think like us. So we have to do something about it. So part of the money that they received with the selling, they created the global NGO, a global nonprofit called BLab, which would be like for laboratory for benefit. The B is for benefit. Companies that generate benefit in the world while they are doing business. So the two things are together. Business and impact are together. Yeah, that's the whole idea of the B Corp movement. So it was founded in 2006, and it grew since then, especially on the last years, but it's been a beautiful journey. So right now, B-Lab is all over the world. The B Corp movement goes into 77 countries, but they have units in a lot of countries and in every continent. And when this movement came to Latin America, they decided to give it a Latin America name, which is Sistema B. So when you hear about Sistema B, it's the same thing as the B Lab. It's the same organization, but on Latin America, in Portuguese and Spanish, they have a special name, which is Sistema B, and it's very nice because system is actually what they are. It's not only about B Corps, it's about the system regarding companies and the economy. So it was a very good idea of this name. So that's why you have like these two names, okay, just for you to know, B-Lab Global and Sistema B, but they are the same thing. And to go to the journey of what is B-Lab, I will take you into a journey of why, how, and what, using Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, because I just love this idea, starting with the why, right? So why do the B Corp movement exist? Like we are saying, we are on the verge of a very big problem to our nature and society. So we are increasing inequality, we are increasing global injustice and climate and the problems of climate. So we have to do something, like we started talking about that, right? So I just have here some images talking about all the movements in the world that are looking at it and explaining why is it so important. So for example, the World Economic Forum just produced a report last year about the future of nature and business, and they linked the two, and there is impossible to unlink them like we did on the last 400 years, right? So they are also describing that we have like $10 trillion on this market, and it is growing. It's growing fast. So okay, so how do you do that? And that's the magic of the B Corp. So use the power of market to address this inequality and climate crisis and all these problems. And it all starts with what is the company's best interest. And I think you know where I'm going. I'm going to talk about the change, the shifts between looking for stakeholder governance, for shareholder governance to stakeholder governance, right? So yeah, we have an economy based on increasing the company's value and finance flow, to an economy where I see not only that, but shareholders are one stakeholder important as the others. And then I can see also my employee, their families, and the ecosystem where I am, the community where I am, and I am responsible to them. I like to say it's the same thing of saying, for example, if I want to measure what's the value of Eduardo, Jairo, Sebastian, or Natalia, the two Natalias that we have here. And I would measure your value by the salary that you won every day. So how much money do you have, or do you make each year? This is your value. So you agree that it's part of it, right? It is kind of part of it, but you wouldn't agree that it's your value, right? So you have much more than that. You have a value to your family, to the community where you are in. What is the difference that you make in this world by living? Why is your living worth for our Mother Earth? So this is the same thing for companies. Like, you have a responsibility, you have a value, which is much more than what you're doing economically, and you have the responsibility of being a more sustainable being here. Okay, so that's the same idea. And we are talking about a new company profile, which is its purpose is to, of course, being well placed in the market, doing a lot of profit, making shareholder rich. There is no problem on that. But at the same time, you have to create and generate a proactive positive impact. And if you do both, well, there you got the jackpot. Okay, at least until now, this is the new idea of success. Okay, and also with assuming everything that you are doing and being transparent. Being transparent is very important. So what I like to say about the B Corp movement, there is a very interesting shift from having good products. So for example, I have a organic product, a certified product, a lead building. I have an FSC Forest certification, Energy Star products, amazing. That's great. For example, Ambev, one of the hugest beverage companies in the world, they created a new water here in Brazil called Ama. So all the profit of this bottle of water, after all the costs are paid, all the profit goes to projects to increase the access to water on the northeast part of Brazil, which is a very dry region, right? So amazing product, but it's a product. Is the company changing her own idea of doing business? This is the invitation, you know? Okay, so now do the same thing for all your products, for all what you're offering to the world. The way you produce, is it creating social impact? So for example, I will give this example after, but Guayaki, which is an amazing company. They produce yerba mate, which is a plant here on the South America, products like teas to drink, and they sell it in the United States, but they produce here in South America, and they find out a way of planting and grow these plants on areas that were previously the nature was destroyed. So the more they produce, the more they are recreating, helping to regenerate the nature. So they measure the impact by the hectares of land that they are helping to bring back to life, and working with the local communities, the indigenous people. So the more they produce, the more impact they will generate on the social and environmental. So this is the idea. This is a B Corp. This is a new company. Okay. So we like to say that B corporations are what is fair trade is for coffee and lead is for business. B corporation is to business. It's a new way of doing business. Right now we have 110,000 companies using, even more, 150,000 companies using the tools that the B Corp, the B Lab has, that are free to any company to use and measure its impact. I will show it to you. This is the amazing part of it. And those that got the best results are certified as B Corps. And now we have 4,000 companies in the world that are certified in 150 industries, 70 countries, and one goal: to redefine the concept of success in economy. So, you know, for example, Danone, which is being certified, is certifying each of its business units. You know, Natura and Patagonia, and Tom Shoes, and many others. And I will talk about if I am small or big, can I be a B Corp? Yes, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. What is the goal of B Corp movement is that we is not B Lab. We here in this call, everyone are going to redefine success in the economy. Okay, we as companies, as suppliers, as citizens, as customers. Okay, so what is that the B movement do? Actually, the B Lab offers to everyone. So this is the good part. Well, so first thing, they have a free impact measurement tool, which is amazing. It's called the B Impact Assessment, and every company in the world can go there and measure its impact for free and have a report and compare itself to others. Okay, this is if you know some company that wants to start on the ESG, wants to start measuring its impact and doesn't know why, but doesn't have any money to do it with a consultant, just give them this website. They will answer questions, and they will have a full report. It is really that amazing. Okay, so what does it cover? It covers 5 dimensions of a company. So governance. So how is the social impact implied on my business and on my decision making? So it goes from having a purpose that is reading on my mission, to having like a ethics code, to having processes inside the company, so that the impact is the one measure of success, just like my market share, my customer satisfaction, my NPS are doing. So impact becomes a pillar on decision making. This is the huge difference. So when you go to a meeting of directors or with the board, impact is a key measurement of success. Okay, so this is the one huge difference. So you lock your mission with impact. So I will give you an example. Okay, when Natura bought Avon, the shareholders of Avon had to say, okay, I agree to be bought by a B Corp, which will not put my interest as a shareholder in the top priority. It will be one of the top priorities. And I agree with that, and you can buy me. So we can see really things that are changing. And also with Danone growing as a B Corp, we can see huge companies going on that direction. Okay, the bigger you are, the more difficult it is. But at the same time, if you are too small, you don't have anything to create impact. So, but the system, the B Impact Assessment, it adapts itself to your nature, to your industry, and to your size. Okay, so it's an intelligent software. It will make questions so they can fit to your reality. I help organizations become B Corp, so even big organizations or small ones, and it's feasible. It's feasible. Also, the workers part of it is how do you go? How do you do more than the law to your employees? So do you offer trainings for their lives and not only for the job? So financial aid or financial training, or for example, how to be a better parent or everything. So you train them to be good citizens and good people. Of course, giving job flexibility, participation on shares, so more benefits. If you are an inclusive company, so for example, if you have a special department where you bring people that comes from they are immigrants or comes from a disadvantaged community, so you try to bring them to your company. Okay, so some cooperatives can also be B Corps. Not only non-profits cannot become B Corps because it's made for companies that they have a business model. I know non-profits can have business models, but if you are a non-profit, you cannot be a B Corp. yet, at least. Community. So how do you talk to your community? What do you do for your community? So for example, Grain Store Bakery, they have an inclusive, you know, like if you want to buy a very delight ice cream for you, and you have, for example, Ben & Jerry's and Häagen-Dazs in front of you, I would say go to Ben & Jerry's, because Ben & Jerry's is a B Corp, and they have an ice cream, the brownie ice cream, which is made by, the brownie is made by another B Corp, which is Grain Store Bakery, and they engage people without asking any questions. You just go there, you write your name on a list, and then they will call you to work there. And then they will work with you during the work. So if you have never worked before, if you don't speak the language or anything, you are on, you are there, and they will help you. So people grab this opportunity, and they have a huge list of people wanting to work there. So they were created with this idea. Okay, environment. So everything that we do for the environment. So like I said, Guayaquil is an amazing example. And clients. Many companies doesn't have a lot of points on clients and customers, because you have to have like a special model to address to them. So for example, For You Two is it's an English school in Brazil that is inside favelas, and all the teachers are international. They are not Brazilians, and they have an app on the cell phone that you can learn English on the app, all the grammar. And when you go to the class, is a class with an international professor. And it's much less expensive than many other English programs in Brazil. So that's the idea, to bring English to communities. Okay, so their customers are people in disadvantage, but many companies are not. For example, Natura, the customers are not in disadvantage, so they have not a lot of point here, and that's no problem. What you have to do is, the B impact assessment is up to 2,000 points, and you have to have 80 points to ask to be a B Corp. And then a process of analysis and all the study of the company. D-Lab will have a team to work at your documents and check if you can be, and you really are a B Corp. So we're talking about purpose, accountability, and transparency. So this is B Corps. In Brazil, we have more than 200 certified B Corps right now, and it's growing and growing. We have one of the in Brazil. Brazil has one of the most biggest waiting list for organizations that wants to become a B Corp. It's almost 6,000 organizations on the list. So Brazil is a huge market on this, and this is very interesting because we need the solutions to help us solve our huge problems. Here you see the growing on the number of B Corps, which is really exponential. So 2020 is even bigger. So it's really it's good because companies are trying to become really more effective on being social and environmental actors, proactive actors. And to finish up, and then we can, like, you didn't ask a lot of questions, so we have a question and answer session. But just to tell you that, okay, what does all these companies do? So they come together to do things together. So for example, in Chile, they have like this challenge, which is the 10 times. So the people who won the hugest wage salary on the company and the least one have to be less than 10 times. So if the CEO earns $100 a year, the person who earns less in the company shall earn $10,000 a year. So this is the challenge, okay? And this is one of the B Corp requirements also. They measure how much is it on your company. If you have 25 or more, you got no points on that, okay? 1 to 5, you got a lot of points. So net zero also trying to diminish our carbon emission, and the anti-racist movement also, and many other movements. So we have small companies and big companies joining the movement, which is amazing. So like Natura, Danone, Unilever is not a B Corp. Danone is becoming. Unilever is not, but they are buying many B Corps. And when they bought Ben & Jerry's changed the Unilever idea of business, and now they are buying a lot of B Corps, inclusive Mãe Terra in Brazil. And they respect that. They keep the company being a B Corp, which is quite important. And just one thing that is important, what else does the B Corp movement do? So one of the things is work with governments to help them create laws and public policies, like in Colombia, so you can create a social business from start. So you can open a B Corp in the United States and then become certified if you want. And the big legislations. And in Brazil, we are working about it, but it's not going to be a new type of company. It's going to be like a public certification for companies, like a label. You are a company and you have a label as a B Corp, as a B corporation, a benefit corporation actually. So this is where it's going, and also. Huge multinationals, they cannot become B Corps like this. It's a 3, 4, 5 years process. So what I am managing now in the B Lab globally is this movement, the B movement builders, which is like, for example, when Givaudan, for example, wants to be a B Corp. And but it's a long way of becoming a B Corp. So they can join the B movement builder already. They are together with the B Lab trying to understand how we're going to change the economy. So right now we have these 4 companies, Bonduelle, Gerdau, Givaudan, and Magalu, being advised by Danone and Natura to become B Corps one day. But they can also already act as B Corps while they are not yet. So we are opening a second cohort on September to work with 10 more big multinationals that want to join the movement, and that will have a long line of evolution to become a B Corp. So we're talking about more than 250,000 employees in the world. And a lot of money on that, so it's gotta work. We have to change the economy using these big companies, but also the small ones. And also there is another tool to finish up here, another tool for you to use if you want, which is the SDG Action Manager, and it is amazing. It's a similar tool to the B Impact Assessment, but you can measure what is your SDG baseline and how you are performing on each of the 17 SDGs. And it's also for free. Any company can go there and use it. And the two platforms talk with each other, so they update each other. And this is a partnership between B Lab and the UN. So this tool is amazing. I just love it. Please share it and use it. It's free. It's also free. Doesn't have a certification also. It's just for organizations to use it. And also the movement can be brought to a city level. So a city can become a B city actually. Cidade B, a Ciudad B. A city, so we are working, so for example, Asunción in Paraguay, Santiago in Chile, Barcelona in Spain, Edinburgh in Scotland, they are B cities. And it's a whole process, and we are doing this together with Gustavo now here in Curitiba. So it's quite amazing. And that's it about the B Corp movement in a just a glimpse. And now I'm totally available to talk to you about what is it, what are the differences, and all your questions. So thank you so much for hearing me out, and congratulations on this journey of becoming more impact aware and creating social impact in the world.
Great, thank you, Paulo. So thank you for the presentation, for everything. So guys, questions, comments? We have a couple of minutes for Q&A.
Paulo, once again, thank you very much. Really appreciate your insight. Could you please elaborate a bit? What's the key difference between certificating companies and businesses that engage in industry and those that engage with provision of services?
Oh yeah, okay. Difference between production of industries and services. Yeah,
exactly.
Both can become B Corps. Okay, both can generate a positive impact, and the B impact assessment will adapt to each one of them. So we have industries like we have Danone and Natura, and we also have services. For example, we are a consulting company, and it's different the way that you generate impact. So for example, in service, it's much more how you use your expertise to generate impact, and not on the process of production, because, and it can be, so for example, we have a difference of salary, of wage of 5 times. So there is not that difference. We have an open shareholder policies to people, so they can become partners. So in the way we are doing, and we only work with social impact, helping organization and social enterprises. So we do this doing, but a normal consultancy, for example, a lawyer, we have a lot of law offices that are B Corps. So they have, for example, a division that is dedicated to impact and everything, and they look and they do use a lot of paper. So the interesting part is that you can see all the dimensions of a company and create impact in everything we do. This is the secret. It's not having a huge institute or a huge impact project with the community. It's everything that you do. That's why services can also become certified and generate impact. Did I answer your question, Andre?
Sure. Thank you very much once again.
Amazing.
Any more questions, guys?
You can ask difficult questions too, you know, like really. Okay, go on, Aditya.
Yeah, one question here is, I mean, from an operational point of view, when you're doing the certification, is it just based on submission of documents, or is it like an actual audit? How is the truthfulness maintained?
Yes. So the assessment is a self-feeling assessment. So you are gonna tell what your company is doing. Then when you hit the button, when you reach more than 80 points and you hit the button to go to B Lab, then a whole process of analysis starts. And then you have a lot of meetings with the B Lab people and you have to send a lot of documents from inside the platform. So the platform, each question, you have a way to insert the documents, and then B Lab will analyze it and see if you are telling the truth and everything. They will not check everything. So for example, if you say you have a code edits, they will not, maybe they will not see your code, but if you are saying that you have, they will believe, but they will look at the more important parts of it, you know. So it's kind of a new economy also way of doing. But you are after you are certified, then you are surveilled. That means that if you have any little small problem of having done something wrong, or some environmental problem, they will create like a task force and go to you and then ask what's going on, give me all the documents, because they are very world with what the B Corps are doing. So they not they have like police people that will look at it, but the community will tell them. So the community works well, you know. So that's how it goes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Amazing. Okay. Sebastian.
Thank you, Paulo, so much. Very interesting here, the topic. So I have a question. How much it cost? I was looking in the web, more or less like $500 in past 2 years.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you pay annually a fee when you become a B Corp. You don't pay to use the tool, but you pay annually, and I will show you. I will show you the.
Yeah, I'm context you a little bit. Nowadays, we have a company that made the uniforms of oil and gas sector in Colombia. So those kind of companies has a lot of impact in our country because the use of the resources and all of this. So we are looking for improve the impact of this company through the communities with the uniforms and sector apparel.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I'm helping a huge organization here in Brazil that will become also a B Corp, and that works on this area too. So if you want, we can exchange some ideas. Just send me an email and I can help you. So this is the annual fee regarding your income, your yearly income. Yeah. So it starts with $1,000. Actually, it's $500 in Brazil because of the check exchange rate. Sistema B changed a little bit in Brazil to make it less expensive for companies. And it can goes up to $5,000, $50,000, depending on how much dollars you make a year. And if you change it, so if you grow 1 year for other, then it changes the annual fee also. So it's based on your last
like a tax. It's similar of a tax when you grow
exactly.
your income. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Yes. So that's how it works. Great question, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna send you the email. Thank you so much.
Of course, Sebastian. So I will copy this. Oh, there's a question by Andre here. Is B Corp present in all 5 participant countries? I'm quite sure yes, because we are in 77 countries. So probably the participating countries we are there. And if you want any contacts with people from B Lab there or companies, you can all go to this website and see all the list of B Corps by country. I use it to bring students when we could travel. We had two travels by year with students here in Curitiba to go to 2 countries and to be in contact with the business sector. And of course, one of my main allies to find companies was the B Corp movement. So I talked to them, people from there, and then they helped me to go prepare visitations to B Corps. And now I do this on my personal vacations. When I go to another country, I separate 1 day or 2 to visit the B Corp because they are quite amazing. So this is something that I also encourage you to do. Like, go to the website, find the companies and in the provinces and countries, and go visit them. They are amazing.
Great.
Andre, yeah, do you have
speaking about countries, just caught my mind one more question. And when we deal with huge multinational companies, like the example you've given, Danone, it is the headquarters that is certified. I mean, not every branch in every country, obviously.
Yeah, so it's like that. You have to certify each operation. So, for example, Danone has in Brazil yogurt and a product for babies. Okay, So you have to certify each of the operations. And if you are a multinational, you cannot just say, okay, I will just certify my yogurt industry. You can't do that. You can if you talking to the B Lab so that the multinational becomes a B movement builder, and then we can start with this one. But we have to work on all of them. So for example, Danone, it is, how is it certified right now? Danone North America is certified. Danone Brazil is certified. So Danone is certifying each of their country operations. That's how they are doing. Okay. But you cannot like just certify a brand. You cannot certify a brand, only the operation. That's how it works.
A smart approach, really.
Yeah, because you have to do different, right? Not only, not a marketing program. It's really a change economy program, a new economy. Yeah, amazing.
Perfect, then. So, Paulo, thank you so much for your time, for being here with us today and sharing your experience and passion about this subject. It was really interesting topic. And I think that after today, we see that there's hope. And so we are seeing companies doing things. So things are happening in some sense. So we know that we have big challenges on society, big problems to overcome on that. And we know that is shared responsibility in different sectors. But we see, we saw today really good examples from companies all over the world, rethinking their business, rethinking their business model, rethinking capitalism. So it's urgent to deal with this. Of course, this is not ideal yet, but the movement is going on. In the past year, I think the past 2 years, we saw lots of things changing, lots of company boarding on these kind of issues and discussions, and wanted to be part of this change and of the solutions, not just on the problems, but also in the solutions. So it's really good to see, and was really inspiring everything we saw today. So thank you, Paul. If you could share your presentation, it would be great, so I can send to the students, and then they can also keep in contact with you. I saw that you put your email, etc. So really great. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening, and especially to being on this journey. It's a life journey, but we will get the world better together. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice week.
Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you, Gustavo, for the invitation. Bye-bye.
So, guys.
Thank you.
Really great conversation. Today, and well, tomorrow, as you know, we're going to have the presentations in the first part. So the idea is that you could bring your discussions, your thoughts from the yesterday, and for your group discussions, and present the solutions for the challenge. So as I said, each group will have about 7 minutes to present, and we will engage in a discussion. So be really concise in your presentation, so really objective, so we can keep this on time. And on the second part, we will also have a really inspirational speech on innovation from Wendell. He's in US, he's Brazilian, but lives in US, works with MIT, and for like an inspiration and final talks on the theme. So thank you everyone for today. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Gustavo.
Bye.
Bye, Gustavo.
Bye.